What's beauty to you?
What's beauty to me?
For artists, we fought for so long to have freedom of speech.
We have this technological revolution, but how does it impact our traditions?
If I moved one person to do something, I'll take it.
We have to remind humanity that we're one family.
When most people think of the quintessential bohemian artist, they don't envisage a strategic entrepreneur with healthy habits like early morning serfs. The romantic notion that so many famous artists and performers live glamorous lives carelessly indulging in substances as they ride their wave of talent is such a cliche vision. Truth is, almost all artists succeed as a direct result of years of hard work, practice, dedication, and the mental acumen to be their own boss. Meet Darius Yektai, an award-winning expressionist painter and sculptor based in Sag Harbor, New York, known for his slick and thick, uber-textured paintings suspended in seas of resin. With Greek-Iranian ancestry, Darius was raised in a home of art and culture. His father, Manusha Yektai, was friends and a contemporary of Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning, and an esteemed painter that's in the MoMA collection. His brother Nico, a successful sculptor, and his mother, a writer and illustrator.
How old are your kids?
My oldest daughter is 25.
Oh.
24, actually.
Right.
She's getting married.
Wow, older. I was expecting like little ones.
No, my son's 22 and my youngest daughter is 19.
Wow, you started young.
I did. It was so interesting watching three children because each one has a different sensibility. My oldest daughter, everything was a symbol and she is very graphic. And my son was always like pure abstraction. He'd like take the paper, put it on the ground, take a stick, pile up paint, put the stick on the paint and walk around the paper. But my youngest, who's at RISD now and is an artist, she was always looking. So she would look at the flowers and see what all the information
More like
in nature.
You.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
There's so much information in nature and she was looking at it and digesting it. This is literally very much like the deep field from the Hubble telescope. Let's just say that since I was in school, the Hubble telescope went up and they returned to it every night, and finally when they developed that film of this overexposed darkness, black spot, it's all galaxies. This is infinite depth, but it's on your surface of the studio floor. So there's this element of if everything is one, there's the element of the earth, the floor of the earth, describing the infinite cosmos. You would come to the realization that it looks like the sky. Gravity has a play in it, so it has to be on the floor.
Have you titled this piece yet? No. So then you've got to do Staring into Space or something like that. And they'll be like, why is this called Staring into Space or whatever? And then they're going to go,
you're not bad. That's good. I spent a lot of time sitting in a beach chair in my studio looking, and my kids come in and they see me sitting in the chair. Hey, Dad, we're going, do you want anything from the store? Then they say, the joke is that they've never seen me paint because every time they look in the studio, I'm sitting in the beach chair looking at a painting because art and painting is something that you do in your head.
Yes.
So if I'm on vacation, I'm thinking about art. If I'm sitting in the beach chair, I'm changing the sky. What would it look like if it was green? What would it look like if it was blue? When it finally boils up to that nagging, you're going to do it, mixing the paint and making the move, I try and move as quickly as possible to capture that dynamism.
Darius works quickly melding abstraction and representation to capture dynamic, boldly textured landscapes, still lifes, and figurative works. Some paintings are subdued and minimalist, others vibrant and complex, loaded with layer upon layer of paint, resin, and more paint dancing on the surface. From the side, many of his works are so layered they resemble a geological record of their evolution. None of his pieces are flat. Some include a variety of unexpected mixed media, like tubes of paint, rags, and rips of studio floor, that give Darius his signature style, which has often been described as sculptural wall reliefs.
You have a lot of things referring to the surf, and also surfboards, as in you use resin, you happen to surf like every day.
It's just part of,
Look at this, it's like a big wave.
That
you
is
can
a big
totally
wave.
see it. I love this piece.
So the story it will tell you is that water drips, paint drips, water pools, paint pools, water stains canvas, paint stains canvas. The idea of a painting suspended on the wall is suspended in gravity, and in here it's actually the physical brushes that manipulate the paint as gravity falls. And it actually describes the movement of the wave. You see how it slowly comes around.
Sure,
All these things come together.
And this is very healing for you, the ocean and the water. Is that what you're trying to capture?
It's part of the reason why I live in the Hamptons, is to be close to the ocean.
And you like to monumentalize the ocean, which is a monumental beast.
Yeah, I love it. You're Australian, you know, it's the same thing there, right? I wake up in the morning, it's the first place I go, then I come back to the studio. I used to paint in the city, and there was a lot of energy, and these are quiet paintings. Even with all this stuff, this is a quiet painting.
I like that. You know, there's a lot of emotion that you can feed from this.
I totally agree with you.
Can you tell us the title again? It is an epic title.
And from the sea, God created studio shit.
There you go. And there's the studio shit flying around it.
It's
Perfect.
cozy. It kind of like embraces the room. The wall disappears. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to ask you, soundtrack.
I mean, Zeppelin is a good one. So I still bring along with me just the classic rock of my youth.
Dating back over 20,000 years, relief artworks are sculptures in which the three-dimensional elements are raised from a two-dimensional flat surface. Relief art can be seen on a variety of forms, such as coins and totem poles. They're typically categorized in 4 ways, from high, medium, and low to sunken, depending on how much the foreground is raised or lowered from the surface.
Have you studied in other countries and had
studied in
residencies?
Paris.
Oh, you did?
I studied art history in Paris in order to be a painter. I came to it from a science background. So I was studying physics and chemistry, accelerated in school. And then I kind of downshifted to geology. And geology was definitely informs my work. There's an element of looking at the edge of a painting and finding the truth of it. So the way that you read strata in geology, you can see there's painting, resin, and then painting on top of it. And it's like, and all the paintings have that element. If there was, some of them have like drips here. This drip means that this painting was laying on the ground at one point.
Can I just say, I love these pieces.
The water lily paintings?
Love them. And I love to see these layers, like you were saying, the layer upon layer.
This one is titled Persian Lilies.
And you have a Persian background, right?
My father's Persian. But this has a feel of a tapestry of a rug, and it was like,
absolutely.
If you've ever looked at like
a Persian rug,
an antique one, which are interesting. When they run out of a color of yarn, they grab another color and keep the pattern going.
I think it's important to point out that your work photographs nicely, but it's even better in person.
No photograph is going to do what resin affords. Anything painted on top of the resin interrupts the reflection of light, so it becomes matte. So these paintings do what sculpture asks. Sculpture asks you to walk around it in order to understand it. These paintings kind of ask you to walk around them.
You're a young dad, right?
Yeah.
What's your advice to young parents?
Just be there and listen to what they're saying. You know, like validate what they say. That's the most important.
How do you approach drugs with kids? You can't put them in a box, right?
No, I partied until I was like 43, and then I stopped. So like I've been sober for 6 years.
How did that affect your art? Did it change?
Much clearer. Then the color enters into it and the joy. But more than that, it's every day I come in, and it's one foot in front of the other, and things get done. There's no cleaning up of a mess. that you did by staying
night
up all
before.
night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The energy stays consistent and the studio moves forward. And there's 365 days in a year, which was a discovery when I got sober. This is it's not done because it needs to dry.
Oh, it's still
on
wet?
the ground because the paint will slide off the resin until it dries. So I've made like a handful of paintings that fully satisfy me. As soon as I figure out how to do something or a market that likes it, if they then say make 10 of them, I can't. I'm not engaged anymore. It's a variation on a theme. When the variation is over, I'm into something else. But I'm fortunate enough that the paintings keep going. The discovery keeps going.
So do you have like one or a couple of pieces that just aren't for sale? They just mean
The dark
too much
self-portraits
to
are
you?
not for sale.
The dark self-portraits aren't for sale?
I've sold only like 5 or 6 of them, and to one client that.
Can you show me some of these dark
Yeah,
self-portraits?
we can go downstairs. You're gonna be distracted with it's like
Every other thing?
there's 500 paintings everywhere. When this is hanging on a gallery wall, it's a black painting. Let's say that it's heartbreak and all these things that we go through because life is hard. As I'm painting it and pouring all that emotion into the painting, the very last brushstroke, I now have just made a beautiful painting that brings me so much joy. So it's counterintuitive. You pour in all this darkness and sadness, and it brings you joy. You know what I mean? Because you come out of that darkness.
Yes.
And I have this thing that now we're celebrating. We're looking at it, we're like, whoa, that's an amazing painting. And it still brings me joy.
I want to ask you, out of this darkness, what's beauty to you?
What's beauty to me? Wow. Well, I mean, literally, there's miracles all around us. Everything. And it's, as soon as I like slowed my life down and I started to see them.
What's success?
Finding something that you love doing and devoting yourself to it and not being afraid of a little bit of sacrifice. Raising children is ultimately that in a nutshell. Selflessness, sacrifice.
Yeah.
Painting is a lot of that too, because it takes a lot of time to figure out your voice.
Yeah.
I still am. You have to be okay with the time it takes.
So I'm imagining you had this on the floor, you walked around it a lot, a very Jackson Pollock-esque kind of approach to the piece.
idea, from Monet's Water Lilies, that's the beginning of this flattened picture plane, and Pollock comes a lot from that, those rough Monet water lilies. And so then the idea was thinking, well, what would Pollock paint like if he was painting, like Monet, well, the two together, or what would Monet paint like if he knew about Pollock?
And then he was influenced in some way.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if Monet held on to flowers and painted into the surface like Pollock, that's what the thought was that led to this Falling Flowers series.
I love all the layers. There's just layer upon layer upon layer with a multitude of colors.
It's just falling into this on top of this.
I see
the
you've
drips
scratched.
on top of this. When you just travel back into the surface.
From Impressionist and abstract style works that evoke Monet and Pollock to moody dark self-portraits described as Rembrandts with the lights turned out, Darius pays homage to old masters with a distinct contemporary twist that's almost impossible to capture by camera. After meeting Darius, to me, his monumental wave painting seems more like an honest metaphor on life. The bigger the wave, the deeper we must dive. When so many of my favorite artists in history have gone down from drugs and alcohol, Darius is an inspiration that rises above it all, reversing the trend, with only one addiction to the most alluring substance of all: art.